Second call, class 2. Second call, class 2. Entering the ring now is class 1 of our Market Lamb show. Exhibitors include Raina Johnson, Mallory Carlson, Ellie Carvis, and Wyatt Fairley. Here's our third call for class 2 and second call for class 3. We also wanted to remind everybody that the show will be live streamed or is live streamed through Ringside Live. Visit ringsidelive.com to view all the shows this weekend. We'd also like to welcome our judge this afternoon, Nate Brookshire. Nate attended Lakeland College and Western Illinois University, where he obtained a degree in ag business while on the competitive livestock judging team. Now Nate is at the University of Illinois, where he obtained his master's and is coaching the livestock judging team. Beyond school, he enjoys owning and operating BK Livestock, sorting junior stock shows, and being with friends and family. Let's welcome Nate this afternoon.
Fantastic way to kick off our Market Lamb show, and in my mind, I thought the goats were very, very high quality. It looks like the same story is going to be true over here on the sheep side. Man, a very, very high quality top 4, if you will. And to me, the one who best maintains athleticism, structural quality, and angularity off either end of his skeleton, while remaining just the most proportional and neat about his pattern, is the young man's really white-featured, hampy-colored kind of sheep that's going to surface. For me, I think that sheep is awesome just in terms of his soundness, his comfort, And then in my mind, he's got ample muscularity and body shape. Young man does a nice job getting that one shown. You want to come out here and talk about genuine muscularity, power, and width from behind the lineup? I can talk all day about the sheep that's going to come out here in second. That one's the wider skeleton, rounder ribbed option, who's more aggressive in terms of her back shape. I like her in terms of her full rib and her mid body, and then she is just as big and oopty in terms of her lower leg and stifle as any of them. I get her out and I get her going. She wants to get a little more opened up at the base of her shoulder. She doesn't come with the same kind of elevation up front, and then with that, she's a little longer bodied, not just as neat in terms of her underline proportion, but man, that's a very, very high quality sheep. High risk, high reward comes out here in 3 because this sheep has some real unique stuff going on. Incredibly tall shouldered, short bladed, shallow chested sheep that is fresh and shapely. I like that sheep in terms of its touch. I think that sheep is actually really big and square in terms of its loin. With that being said, that sheep will tie its neck just a little bit lower up front, get a little flatter there in terms of its body design, and then that sheep will get just a little deviated over the top side of its dock. The sheep gets a little quicker in terms of its movement, but awesome looking, good shaped kind of a sheep with a square loin edge. This one that comes out here next, practical, productive kind of a sheep with a round rib cage. I like that guy just in terms of the width of the center portion of his body. To me, he's probably got just a little more in the seat of his pants than the sheep that was there in 3. To me, he's just a little straighter off either end of his skeleton, a little deeper and more generic, but that is a great sheep to round out our class. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Awesome job.
Our Class 1 winner was Wyatt Fairley. Second place in Class 1 goes to Raina Johnson. Final call in Class 2, third call Class 3, and second call Class 4. Exhibitors in Class 2 are Raina Johnson and Reese Ayler.
Good pair of sheep in Class 2. And for me, the big-legged, stout-featured one is going to be the one that we're going to kick off with. To me, just a little rounder in terms of his rib, more aggressive in terms of his shape up high. I prefer that guy in terms of his progression of width to a big, broad, square upper hip. And then with that, he's just got a little bit more in the seat of his pants. I prefer him in terms of his lower body balance as we get him out and going. I think it's a very, very nice sheep to get us kicked off. Not to take anything away from the young lady sheep that comes out here in 2. That guy is fresh and hydrated in terms of his hide. He's better in terms of his skin. I like that guy in terms of the girth of his neck, and the young lady does a great job getting that one shown. He's awesome just in terms of his proportions on the standstill, and I really like the way that he's level and unique in terms of his top line assembly. I get that guy rolling, and he wants to rock forward in terms of his shoulder. You get a little deeper there in terms of his sternum, and he's not just a square loined or big or broad about his upper pin bone, but man, that's a good sheep with an awesome kind of a durable hind leg. Congratulations to that young lady.
Our Class 2 winner was Raina Johnson. Second place in Class 2 to Reese Ayler. Entering the ring now is Class 3 Market Lambs. Third call Class 4, second call Class 5, and first call Class 6. Following Class 6, we'll move into our overall Market Lamb drive.
kind of a challenging trio of sheep to get us kicked off. And honestly, I think they are all representative of different things. I had these sheep travel a couple more times just because I wanted to read their build. Our ring isn't just giant, and so I wanted to be able to look and evaluate their skeleton. To me, the guy who's just as true in terms of his skeletal quality, his angularity, and his athleticism down low as any of them is the sheep that's going to surface. And then with that, he's tremendous in terms of his underlying quality. He's awesome just in terms of his loin edge. I'm thinking when I make the call that he's got just enough muscularity, he's got just enough pin bone, I'm very, very happy with that sheep. I think he's awesome in terms of his neck set and his elevation up front. He progresses down to a deep, full kind of a rear rib and flank. And then with that, as we've kind of already said, he's just incredibly, incredibly sound in relation. If you wanted to come out here and tell me, well, Nate, this is the biggest genuine source of power right here, I could totally get in on that conversation. And on the standstill, I'm a big, big fan of this sheep because proportions and balance read right. He's short-bladed. He's awesome in terms of his lower body. He's the roundest rib, biggest hipped kind of sheep. And then with that, he's as dimensional in terms of his lower leg as any of them. With that, I get him into motion. He'll want to narrow up in terms of his chest and get a bit forward in terms of his knee. In relation to my class winner, he's a little plainer and sharper in the set to his hock. But I love that guy in terms of his skin. I like him in terms of his muscularity. Great one to be second. This one right here is maybe just as dynamic and captivating on the standstill as any of them. Again, elevation up front, shortness of blade. The way that guy ties his neck out of the top side of his shoulder is very, very good. Again, I like this guy in terms of his shape. I read this guy incredibly lean. I wish I could yank him down in terms of his rear rib and make him just a little bit fuller in terms of his heart and the edge of his loin. I actually think he's pretty big and square loined. I think we should just wish it was up a little bit more. But man, I think that's a very good sheep that for third. This one, round rib, deeper in terms of his body. He's got just a little more natural cover than the sheep that comes in third. To me, I like this sheep in terms of his spread and his mass and his power up high. In relation to those ahead of him, he doesn't have the same kind of underlying quality and balance, but that's a good critter, no doubt. Congratulate that cross with a big round of applause. Again, tremendous job.
Congratulations to Wyatt Fairley, Class 3 winner. Second place in Class 3 to Raina Johnson. Peyton Peterson was third, and Emma Heidebrink in fourth. Entering the ring now is Class 4. Exhibitors include Ellie Carvis, Landry Peterson, and Ivy Teasler. Third call, Class 5, and second call, Class 6. While our judge is sorting this class, I'd like to read off a few of our sponsors that made this weekend possible. The First National Bank in Sioux Falls, Poet, First Premier Bank Card, Farm Credit Services of America, Dakota Bank, EB Trailers, Prairie Farms, South Dakota Soybean Checkoff, and Wager Cattle.
One of the things that's been fun about today is that each one of these sheep out here in front of me right now has a class-leading advantage. And so what I think has been cool with that is each one of these classes has come out, and these sheep have had, a part or a piece that I really, really like. And so that holds true in this class right here. To me, we've talked a lot about skeleton, especially in terms of rear leg utilization today. The one that wins has to in that regard, with my commitment there, because that guy, in terms of his hind leg utilization, in terms of the usage of his hip, and then still being correct in terms of the angulation of his shoulder and his knee up front. And in my mind, he's by far and away the best in this representation. He's awesome in terms of his balance on the standstill. I think he maintains his look. Maybe in motion, he'll get just a little bit more open to the base of his shoulder, maybe not just as unique in terms of his chest, but sound and comfortable with ample muscularity and shape. I thought a great way to get us kicked off. No doubt, as I get on top of the Livestock, I'm a big fan of this one. Beautiful skin. That touch right there is absolutely incredible. And then that guy is progressive in terms of his wedge, ahead of a square loin and a big broad upper hip. And then again, has the height of shoulder, has the shortness of blade that I like. To me, he's a little harsh in terms of his rear rib and flank. And then I get that guy out and rolling. He'll want to yank down in terms of his tail head and get a little quicker in terms of his rear step. I just wish that the rear third of his body was just a little bit neater. But man, that sheep has a lot of uniqueness. This guy right here, the roundest, the widest, the boldest bodied sheep by some margin. That guy's full rib and hard are absolutely giant. That guy's glute and then the seat of his pants is absolutely awesome. That guy has an advantage in terms of true spread and dimension up high. Unfortunately, as I roll his body wall, he's just a little plainer to the touch, not just as aggressive in terms of his shape. I like that guy in terms of his foot size and his feature, though. I wish that you just got out and went like the other two did. Congratulations, those three. I thought a very nice class. Congratulations.
Our Class 4 winner was Landry Peterson. Second place in Class 4 was Ellie Carvis, and Ivy Teasler was third place. Entering the ring now is Class 5 with one exhibitor, Peyton Peterson. Class 6, be on deck and ready to roll. Following Class 6, we'll move right into our overall champion market lamb drive. We will need our first and second place winners out of all of our classes to be up by the ring. After the champion market lamb drive, we'll move right into our junior and senior showmanship.
Single entry out here, but one of them that I think can withstand a fair bit of competition. One of the sheep that out here in relation to some of the contemporaries that we've seen so far, I think when we get him back in a drive setting, I'm really going to appreciate just his balance and his proportions from the side. Sheep has ample muscularity, power, and robustness of rib, and then I still read him to pretty sound and comfortable down low. And so excited to see that one come back out here, and we're excited for this champion drive.
Congratulations, Peyton Peterson, winner of Class 5.
Another single entry out here in kind of a heavier weight division, and man, probably just the heaviest muscled sheep that I've seen in some margin. Again, I like his proportions and balance relative to his muscularity and size, relative to his maturity. He's still youthful in terms of his look. He's awesome in terms of his skin. And then for as much muscle as he has, as much power, again, remained incredibly sound and comfortable down low. And so again, excited to see this one come back out. Very nice sheep to get us kicked off.
Congratulations to Chloe Nelson on our first place in Class 6. Entering the ring now is our first and second place winners of all of our classes this afternoon for our overall champion market lamb. From Class 1, we have Wyatt Fairley. From Class 2, Raina Johnson. Class 3, Wyatt Fairley. Class 4, Landry Peterson. Class 5, Peyton Peterson. And Class 6, Chloe Nelson.
Very high quality set of sheep out here, and man, I'm very, very blessed to be here today and have the opportunity to sort through the kids. I thought each one of these classes, even though they might not have been filled with incredible numbers, I thought they were incredibly, incredibly high quality. And so I thank you guys for bringing your stock here. I think this new show is absolutely fantastic. The crew here has run it incredibly, incredibly well, and so I'm pumped up about the stock. I'm going to let you guys kind of maybe know a little bit more of my thought process as I go through these things, because I do think that there are just a little bit different. I do think that there's some discussion between them. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a big, big fan of our Class 1 winner. He is as neat in terms of his underline and as sound and comfortable and current in terms of his look as any of them. I think that guy is very, very good. I guess in relation to a couple of the other ones out here, as I get my hands on him, is he just aggressive enough in terms of his shape? Is his loin just good enough? Man, that becomes my question. But that is a very, very high caliber sheep. I thought the sheep that came out here in 2 was a really, really ripped up, muscular kind of a critter that still had the right kind of proportions and feature. I thought that sheep in class just looked very, very manly, and then he comes back out here and maintains that. Is he maybe just as smooth in terms of the way that he blends? Becomes my question, but that sheep is good. The sheep that came out here in 3, man, I thought that guy's skeleton down low was good. His loin edge was square. He still was heads up and attractive. I liked him there. When I get him back out in relation again to the couple others out here, is he just manly enough from behind the lineup? Is his pin bone just as big and broad? That becomes my question, but man, he's good. Again, soundness, hind leg, and durability of the usage of that hip and hind leg is what gets this sheep out here. And then his proportions and balance still look very, very high quality. I like his height to shoulder and his neck attachment. Again, I thought that sheep had ample muscularity. When I get this guy going, is he just perfect in terms of the base of his breast and his blade was my kind of question. He maybe gets just a little rounder to the top side of his hip, but I like that guy in terms of his looseness, his structure. This guy on the standstill that comes out here next, I thought was real dynamic, long and level in terms of his hip and out of his dock. I thought his back shape was awesome, and then his chest to flank relation is really good. In motion, he'll maybe want to sag just a little bit or deviate there in terms of his loin, but again, when I get my hands on it, though I don't think it's perfect, in terms of its squareness, I think it's really big and really opened up. I thought that guy was definitely a contender. And then this sheep out here, I mean, if you're sitting on this side of things, you can definitely tell that he's a kind of a man amongst boys, if you will, the heaviest muscled, the widest skeleton, the most robust sheep, who's just as show ready as any of them there. I like that guy in a lot of aspects. And then relative to his muscularity and his size and his maturity, I still think he's juvenile in terms of his look. I still liked him in terms of his underline. I still thought that guy was sound and comfortable in terms of his feet and leg utilization. I think there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different things to come out here and like in these sheep. And so that's why I wanted to kind of give you guys my breakdown of the livestock out here in our drive, because man, they are good, but they are just a skosh different. But man, I just thought a very high quality set. Thanks so much for having me. Give a big round of applause to the kids, and let's get you guys top 5.
Congratulations to our top 5 market lamb exhibitors. Champion market lamb went to Chloe Nelson, reserve champion to Wyatt Fairley, third overall Peyton Peterson, fourth overall Wyatt Fairley, and fifth overall. Congratulations to all of our market lamb exhibitors. We'll now be moving right into our junior showmanship, followed by our senior showmanship. In the ring now is Ivy Teasler, single entry junior showman.
Single entry in our junior division of showmanship, and the young lady comes out here and does an absolutely awesome job. Really good in terms of management of that thing's spine, square on all 4 corners in terms of her feet and leg placement, and then with that, she still gets that sheep's head and neck up high. Now, if I'm going to be real critical, I think we can take this portion of our leg, get just a skosh lower, and get into that thing's breastplate. That'll really allow that sheep to push, embrace, and drive and maximize that. But young lady, I thought you've done an awesome job. Give a big round of applause to her, and congratulations.
Congratulations to Ivy Teasler on winning Champion Junior Showman. Entering the ring now is Emma Heidebrink for Senior Showmanship.
Single entry in our next division of showmanship, and the young lady comes out here and does the basics incredibly well, and then does it with some extras in terms of keeping that thing spine flat and level, feet square down low, and then awesome body positioning in relation to that sheep. Like our hand placement as well. Again, like I told the young lady before, I think we can get just a little bit more push, embrace, and drive out of that critter, but I thought you've done a fantastic job of working at home with that animal and building that bond and that relationship that allows you guys to be a symbiotic fashion out here in the ring. And so congratulations to you. Again, this is my last time holding the mic, so thank you again to the summit. I had an absolute blast. I thought the stock, the kids, and the event were absolutely awesome. Give a big round of applause for this young lady right here. She's done a great job.
Congratulations, Emma Heidebrink, our champion senior showman. As the Market Lamb show has wrapped up, I'd like to thank our judge one last time, Nate Brookshire, for making the drive up to Sioux Falls to judge the show this afternoon. I'd also like to thank our sponsors one last time today as we are wrapping up our shows for the day. The First National Bank in Sioux Falls, Poet, First Premier Bank Card, Farm Credit Services of America, Dakota Bank, EV Trailers, Prairie Farms, South Dakota Soybean Checkoff, and Wager Cattle. Thank you once again for coming out to the Market Lamb show of the 2026 Summit Livestock Show.